Welcome to How I Doctor, where we're bringing joy back to medicine. It's just me, Graham, here today. We are blown away by the response to my interview with Mark Cuban. Thank you so much to everyone listening and for sharing the episode. We've got a lot of new listeners here. Welcome to you too. I'm going to do everything in my power to continue to bring you great interviews and episodes about how we can change the healthcare system and empower doctors. What I'd love from you is a quick favor. If you haven't already, make a free account on Offcall. We're building the world's first data set around physician work and pay, and you can see your colleagues' aggregated data to compare to as well. Also, take 10 seconds and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already to get our latest episodes directly in your feed. Thank you. And now for this week's episode, because we have so many new faces and because this show is all about physicians, I wanted to reintroduce you to some of our most inspiring physicians that we've interviewed over the past 4 months, people who exemplify the mission of How I Doctor and Offcall. I think you'll learn a lot. First up, you'll hear my conversation with Dr. Will Flanary, also known as Dr. Glaucomflecken. Dr. G obviously needs no introduction, but we talked back in December about how physicians can reclaim their power in today's healthcare system and use social media as a platform to create change. Honestly, his takeaways are even more relevant today, and I'm excited for you to hear a few of the best moments from our conversation. Well, you've made such a rich tapestry of recurring characters, the Glaucomflecken cinematic universe. What's the unifying theory or the message you're trying to convey in your videos, do you think?
I just want people to laugh at themselves.
Not take life so seriously?
Yeah, that's ultimately, I think that's like the biggest thing. It's a kind of a weird job what we have. It's very strange what we do, and to be able to look at it through a comedic lens at times, it helps like bolster our humanity, I think, like in our own eyes, but also in the eyes of the public. They see us enjoying a little bit of comedic ribbing toward ourselves, toward each other. And that shows people that, oh, this doctor is just a normal person that just happens to do this very strange and important job. And it just humanizes us, right?
I mean, Will, that's actually my favorite part of what you do, even more than the comedy, is just showing that we're just humans. I mean, you really often have a message about self-expression and having to balance that with our professionalism, but that we're well-trained humans is the way I put it. We're not robots. We're not gods. Why do you think that's so important to you that you want to get that message across?
I've had so many experiences as a patient. I kind of know what I like to see in a doctor from the patient standpoint. And that's someone that actually like has a personality. I know what it feels like to have to feel like you need to suppress that, because we've all done it at some point in our careers. You kind of just keep that side of you a secret. And because it's not professional to like want to tell a joke or to want to, cry or whatever it is, show any kind of emotion. I know that I appreciate that in my doctors. And so I want to emulate that.
That we're flawed, imperfect creatures, but we're trying our best. And yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. What do you think the state of medicine is like today? And what do you think has changed since maybe you were in med school?
It certainly is. It's hard to be a doctor. I mean, what's changed is, I think, the public perception of medicine in general has been a big thing with social media in particular. I mean, there's some good things about it, that patients have more autonomy now, which is a good thing through social media and interacting with healthcare professionals on social media. There's less of a patriarchal type of situation where the doctor's word is final. So there's people are taking ownership over their health, which is, I think, a great thing. Like, that's so important. Have the agency to ask questions and challenge physicians, challenge healthcare professionals. But on the flip side, it's also brought like distrust to an extreme degree, to where now we don't actually have the expertise to tell people, like, recommend treatment or what they should do, or whether it's vaccines or whatever it is. And that's dangerous. I feel like we're trying to fight these two things, right? Like, we want patients to have autonomy, but we also need them to like respect our expertise and sometimes listen to us. Hopefully listen to us all the time, just like we need to listen to patients. Like, it needs to be a back and forth. I think it's getting harder and harder to find that find that balance.
Yeah, I think it does feel like there's a kind of an erosion of expertise, or that doing our grueling training isn't sufficient, or is equal to, somebody else reading something online or something.
Yeah, the misinformation. It's just, there's so much of it now, and people are designed to, like, you want to believe somebody saying something, right? Especially if they're a very charismatic, engaging person, like you see often on social media, because that's what people who are engaging and charismatic do. They go on social media and they become influencers. And they may not be correct at all in what they're saying, but if they say it confidently enough, you're going to have people that just say, oh, this person, it just looks like they know what they're talking about. You have to tell people, no, it's actually, you don't need to sun your perineum. That's not going to treat your rectal cancer. So we have to debunk the nonsense. No, you don't need to use aged urine eye drops. That's not going to do anything for your eyes.
I saw castor oil recently on TikTok as well.
Castor oil, yeah, that's another one. So we have to tell people, don't do this thing that's obviously nonsense, but then also the actual things that they should be doing, right? It feels really challenging, right? It's hard enough just to try to get the quality medical information out there without having to deal with all this other nonsense that really shouldn't be out there in the first place.
Totally agree. It's exasperating. Yeah, Will, you've got a lot of resident and med student fans. What would you say you've learned that you only learned once you were once you were done with training?
Oh, how the healthcare system works?
Yeah.
Isn't it outrageous? It's wild to me that we still don't just inform med students about the way the healthcare system works. It's a huge blank spot in our education. And going into private practice, it was a really large uphill climb trying to figure out how billing works and what is prior authorization. What about peer-to-peer reviews? Why do I have to do this? What about, this carrier versus this carrier? And a PBM, I didn't even heard of the term pharmacy benefit manager until I was out of training and practice. It's so there's a lot of our healthcare system is so complex, and we do a terrible job of preparing new physicians to practice in that complex healthcare system. And some of it wasn't until I was a patient until I actually felt it. I felt the weight of all these moving parts that are bearing down and weighing down patients and forcing patients to navigate those complex systems.
You're done with residency or fellowship, and you're like, oh God, thank God I'm finally done. And then it's nope, there's actually a whole third more chunk of stuff you have to figure out, quality metrics and billing. And
oh yeah,
all that.
Congrats, you learned the medicine, great. By the way, you're still going to learn just as much medicine out of training than you are in training, but then you also have you get a PhD in health policy just because you have to.
Hey, if you're a physician who's tired of feeling undervalued, underpaid, and let down by your employer, then join us on Offcall. Visit offcall.com and sign up today. Just like Mark Cuban is bringing transparency to pharmacy prices, Offcall is bringing transparency to physicians and our careers. Thousands of doctors sign up for Offcall to get accurate, reliable, and trustworthy data about new jobs so they can advocate confidently for themselves and ensure their pay actually reflects their worth. So join us. Visit offcall.com and sign up today. It's time to take back control of your career. Next up is Eric Bricker, an internist in Dallas and healthcare finance expert. If you haven't seen Dr. Bricker's whiteboard videos on YouTube or LinkedIn, spend an hour and you will have a mini degree in healthcare finance and administration. This is the type of content we should be teaching every doctor in med school. Dr. Bricker has some very practical takeaways about what physicians can do right now to negotiate higher salaries and push back on employers who are taking advantage of us. I think you'll enjoy these clips as much as I did. If all physicians or many more of us had a better understanding of the money, what would we do with that information? Would we be advocates or lobbying or more just play the game better?
So one, would be like around like prior authorization. Okay. And at the end of the day, guess what? If you want something prior auth, like you will get it approved. Okay. So like a number one for prior auth is that like the vast majority of the time, if you want the stress test or if you want whatever, like guess what? You can get it. Okay. And so it's a matter of understanding that and then understanding that, okay, yeah, maybe you're going to have to delegate that to maybe an MA or a nurse or whatever. And you're going to have to go through, so you've got to be persistent and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like you can totally do it. Like, and so that's like the little secret that like insurance companies don't tell you, because of course the protocol is like, just, I mean, they've literally caught them this. They're like, they're going to deny everything too. Okay. What else? This whole non-compete thing is a bunch of garbage. Okay. At the end of the day, like you as a doctor, like you can and you should leave your job and you should go across the street to the competing hospital system. Like just do it. Okay. And be like, what are you going to do?
Because the hospital's not going to actually do it.
Right. And guess what? Maybe you got to get a lawyer.
Yeah.
Like it's not like getting sued is not the end of the day. Like you get a lawyer, they'll drop it, vote with your feet and just do it. And they'll try to intimidate you to not do it, but just freaking do it. Okay. And so this is true. So like one of the topics is like, well, what can physicians do to just make more money? You switch jobs. I mean, this is true across any job and across the economy.
Any industry, I think. Yeah.
Any industry. Yeah. Job switchers make more money. And it's like 30% more.
Wow.
And because people are always looking for people are always looking for
especially now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, and that people are so scared to leave. Dude, just leave. Like you'll be okay. Like I got my student loans to pay back. Just leave. I got my kids' college savings to take care of. Like, just leave. Okay. I mean, it's not like you will find a job. You will be okay. It's really the fear, false evidence appearing real. You just got to have the courage to just get over that. And you just got to walk. Physicians are basically lied to by insurance companies. They're lied to by administrators. If you don't want to use the word lied to, they're manipulated. So the point is that if you actually understood how the money works, then a physician will be much less easily manipulated.
How does that make you feel, Eric, when you come to these realizations? Do you feel we've been taken advantage of all along, or have things changed over time?
Oh, yeah. We've totally been taken advantage of. We kind of get used to not pushing back. And then in residency, we don't push back. And so we've been trained to like not push back. I've even had hospital administrators admit this to me, that whenever they need the physician to like work more hours or see more patients, they essentially intentionally guilt trip them into being like, but this is for the patient. They literally told me, yeah, that's a strategy we use to manipulate physicians.
I think Danielle Offrey had a piece in the New York Times that I always think about, where she essentially said the Hippocratic Oath is abused in that, doctors and nurses have decided to go into medicine for these hopefully somewhat altruistic reasons. We take this oath that says we're going to put our patients above us, and then the system uses that oath that we said we were going to put patients first to get free labor, work extra hours in the name of the patient.
That's right. And also I just want to add too, it's not just the quote unquote system. It is specific people in positions of power. Okay. So people are always like, well, we don't like to point fingers. No, there are people who are consciously sitting in rooms making these decisions.
I want to transition a little bit to what's happening with physicians now. I'm seeing more physicians wanting to leave medicine, begging to leave medicine, or just do something else, whether it's a side gig or cut back on their clinical hours. How did we get here?
So one, the reimbursement complexity has really continued to get worse and worse, to the point where just the denials and the non-payment and the delayed payment for the independent physician was overly onerous, so that they essentially had to sell their practice because they couldn't bill and collect. And then the other reason why is because the professional fee reimbursement is just so low compared to the facility fee reimbursement, because the big hospital systems have the negotiating power from a commercial insurance. So from like a employer sponsored insurance plan, right? So this is the classic thing of like the orthopedic surgeon is like, well, maybe I'm getting $750 for the professional fee for the arthroscopic knee surgery. Like that hospital could be getting anywhere from $16,000 to $32,000. And the doctor's getting 750. The surgeon's getting 750. The anesthesiologist is getting 1,100, and the hospital's getting 32 grand. And it's just because of the negotiating power that the hospital has for that. And then what really added kerosene to the fire in the last 5 years was the explosion of Medicare Advantage. Because historically, physicians still had traditional Medicare where you didn't have prior authorizations. And if you did it, you would get paid relatively quickly. You do it, you get paid. You do it, you get paid, right? And that kind of existed, right? But that was when only 20 to 25% of people on Medicare were on Medicare Advantage. And now it's over 50%. And that trend it's going to go up to at least 75% that are on Medicare Advantage. So all the problems with delayed and denied payment that used to not apply to your Medicare population, now it does apply to like the majority of your Medicare population. And so you definitely have, proceduralist doctors, cardiologists, orthopedic surgeons, neurosurgeons doing spine, radiologists. I mean, those professions that I just mentioned, like they're making money hand over fist. Like they're in this new environment, they're making more money than they ever have in the past, especially and then geographically, especially in the South and the Midwest. These folks are easily pulling in over $1 million a year.
Because the facility fees are so high, and so then the hospital can give them a nice chunk of that.
That's right. These hospital systems sometimes are making like $10 million per neurosurgeon. So they're like, yeah, we'll pay the neurosurgeon $1 million because we're making $10 million off this guy or woman every year.
Eric, are there other practical things that doctors can do to respond to the changes we've seen over the past couple decades, to whether it's, to improve their salary or just improve their quality of life of finding a better place to work?
Yeah. So you're either gonna walk, right? Or you have to act. The other thing too is you have to actively ask for raises. Guess what happens? People who ask for raises get raises. People who don't ask for raises don't get raises. So you need to ask. And you don't ask once a year. Shoot, ask twice a year. Ask 3 or 4 times a year. Ask multiple times a year and be like, look, I want a raise. And if you're not willing to give me a raise, I'm willing to leave. And so you can either leave, you can threaten to leave and ask for a raise. And then the third alternative is you unionize. Because there are some places where they're like, well, there's just not enough options here. And so we just need to unionize. And we see this with doctors and with nurses. With doctors, it's been primarily the residents that are starting to do it. And these residents are making a lot more money than they used to make. They're getting, much better working conditions. And it's actually not that hard to unionize.
It's always felt to me that physicians, we tend to circle the wagons around our own specialty. But do you get a sense that physicians are becoming more open to that idea of like, we're stronger together?
Unfortunately, I think the answer is no. I think we are still heavily balkanized by specialty because to a certain extent, while we're all doctors and we take care of patients, like our practices and our patient population, like a dermatologist and an orthopedic surgeon actually have very little in common. I mean, they're both doctors, but like kinda. I mean, they're super different. It's like one guy's a plumber and one guy's an electrician. Like, that's really different, okay? Yeah, they both work on houses and buildings and stuff. It's hugely different jobs that you have. And I don't think we're going to overcome that. And actually, that's really been the reason why everyone's like, oh, the AMA is terrible. Listen, it's not the AMA's fault. I mean, each physician is so married to their individual specialty society, whereas the American Hospital Association is actually quite unified for all the hospital. And it's been all this uncoordinated effort from a political advocacy standpoint, whereas from the hospital standpoint, it's been highly unified, which is why I actually, from a practical standpoint, I'm like, look, don't rely. Healthcare improvement in your life as a physician is not going to come at the federal level. Okay. It's going to come at the level of your own practice, of your own hospital, of your own county, and maybe your own state. And that's it. So if you want to focus, start incredibly local because PBMs have very organized and effective federal lobbying. Okay. Doctors are not going to beat that.
Is there a way that a physician can get a sense for how much the hospital is billing under their NPI or their name? Like, is
Yeah.
that something that a doctor can figure out?
So the short answer is yes. And you know which group of physicians that I feel like does the best job of this is radiologists. Because radiologists, they know their RVUs cold. And the key to making money as a radiologist is your RVUs. Because if you're churning and burning reading, you're literally generating 22,000 to 24,000 RVUs per year. Okay? A primary care doc is generating 4,000 RVUs per year. Okay, so just the economics of the way that you read films, you're just cranking out RVUs like crazy. And you talk to the finance people within the hospital. Again, you got to be persistent. You got to know, who to talk to. Yada yada.
This is part of asking for a raise. Is explaining your value
but
to.
believe me,
Yeah.
all the radiology groups that contract with hospitals, they know exactly what the hospital's getting reimbursed per RVU. And what I've really found is that the radiologists, they tend to be good business people because they're very rational and they tend to be dispassionate. They're good at numbers. They tend to be like engineers, and they're very good at just looking at this and just, putting together the numbers on a spreadsheet. I mean, shoot, there's a lot of doctors that don't know how to use a spreadsheet, right? What is something that you can do as a doctor? You need to know how to use a spreadsheet. Okay. And as an autodidact, you need to be able to figure out how to build your own spreadsheets and being able to figure out and track your own RVUs and how you're getting paid or whatever. So in terms of like individual agency and keeping track of stuff, you got to keep track of your own. Like if you want to make more as a physician and you're not doing your own spreadsheeting, then the first thing you need to do is do your own spreadsheeting.
Yeah.
Because guess what?
Get your own house in order. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because that's what other people in other industries do. Like that's what engineers do. That's what people who work in investment banking do. Like that's what people who run small businesses. Physicians used to be small business owners. Physicians used to run their own small practice as a small business. Like you need a spreadsheet.
Next, you'll hear from Dr. Elizabeth Potter, a plastic surgeon in Austin who runs her own practice and went viral a few months ago after she was called out of the OR to take a call from United Health about her patient's prior auth. Dr. Potter has become a powerful advocate for her patients and her colleagues, explaining why medicine is so frustrating and challenging today due to administrative headaches and approvals. There is no better example of a physician who's using their platform and voice to create change. Take a listen. We didn't meet until I was just scrolling TikTok and then came across your post and I was like, who is this amazing plastic surgeon? What made you decide to get out your phone and start recording?
That day, it wasn't a one-off, right? I posted after being called in the operating room by an insurance company and asked to basically justify why my breast cancer patient needed to stay overnight after her major surgery. And I just couldn't anymore, like I try to be someone who's collaborative and I've actually really been a friend to insurance. I've advocated for access through insurance to breast reconstruction and I don't balance bill. I don't do the cash pay game. Like I'm a good actor. And I think were a couple of things. It was the fact that I realized they have no idea that I'm a good person. They're giving me zero credit for my decade plus of advocating for access and doing surgeries for less than I should be paid and all the things, right? And then also just, I felt this creep of being questioned as a physician over and over. And I'd say I was interrupted so many times in my clinical practice by insurance asking me for a peer-to-peer that this just felt like, are you kidding me? You're actually in the operating room? This is insane.
It captured, I think, the quiet rage that many of us feel working in this system. Like, it gets harder every year to do this thing that we love in the name of trying to help our patients. And like, when does this end?
I'll do anything that you tell me will help my patient. I will jump through hoops. I will give me that what a doctor says I should do, right? Like I'll do all the work. And I'll look to my mentors and see like what's the best way to treat this problem and what new skill set do I need to obtain? And with this issue navigating insurance, like nobody has the answer. There's nobody out there who's done this successfully, right? There's nobody who's telling doctors, oh, this is the way that you can, have a viable a viable practice and deal with insurance. And I'm like, we have to do something different. And I just felt like being honest has always been a good policy. You can build from there. And I felt like, let me just be honest about this thing that's going on. And it resonated in a way that I truly did not anticipate, but I am so very grateful for.
Well, it feels like you're doing your end of the bargain of like trying to keep up with the literature and come up with new techniques and find ways of saving time and being efficient and doing all the right stuff. You're doing the doctor part, and then like the insurance people are supposed to do their part too. Like I remember I had this chief resident and he just said, "Graham, you gotta do your job. That's all you gotta do." Like it's not hard. Medicine's not hard. Just do your job, and that's all you gotta do.
I
And
love it.
it feels like the insurance people aren't holding up their side of the bargain. Like, you know?
It does. I mean, it does. I say this, and I'm not joking when I say it. Like the relationship between doctors and insurance companies has become an abusive one, and we are underappreciated and we're gaslit and we're made to justify what we're doing all the time, and then questioned as though we're doing the wrong thing. Uh, Yeah, this is broken, and and we do just want to do our job. I'm here for that. But you have to have like boundaries in place, and you have to have actors involved that have similar goals.
Yeah.
And our goals just don't seem to be aligned.
I remember doing, I think a care coordinator or somebody telling me, if you don't do this, and not in a threatening way, but I took it that way. Like, if you don't do this 12-page form, your patient can't get discharged to where they need to go. And so they're just going to sit here in the ER. I had that same feeling. I will do anything for my patients. And it's the same thing I feel with like if I'm asking my resident or my med student to do something or a nurse. I am not above doing anything to help my patient. I don't, the concept of scut work, like if you
Yeah.
need to call the patient's family, you call the patient's family. But like it feels like there's just every year there's more and more to this that makes it more and more challenging to like I said, just do your job.
It's so true. I completely agree. And I feel like, it makes me just look closely at what's actually happening, right? To say, I'm a physician. I have a patient who has a need and I can meet it.
Yeah, I can do this.
I can do this. And honestly, do we need insurance involved? I mean, so like here's your patient in the emergency room and needs to be discharged, and someone's handing you 12 pages of paperwork to fill out before they can be discharged.
Yeah.
I mean, in my gut as you're saying that, I'm just thinking like, let me show you how I can discharge this patient without that paperwork, and then just roll them out the door, right? It can happen. This absurdity, this theater, we've accepted it, and we all have to just like end the show and get real.
I love it. It is theater. It does feel like theater a lot of the time. Are you a physician who's thinking about switching jobs or actively interviewing for new roles? Don't go it alone. At Offcall, we believe physicians deserve to be valued and treated fairly. Thousands of doctors are signing up for Offcall to get accurate, reliable, and trustworthy data about new jobs so they can advocate confidently for themselves and ensure their compensation truly reflects their value. Stop getting underpaid and start making what you're worth. Visit offcall.com and sign up today to join our growing network of doctors who are taking back control of their careers. Elizabeth, did you start to worry when the video went viral? After the surgery, were you like, oh, this is starting to do something?
That's so funny. I'm actually, I would say I pride myself on being, pretty intelligent and aware and have a lot of common sense, but I wasn't worried. And I think I assumed that I know that I'm a good person and that I've been a really good doctor, and that like I always do the hard right thing, always. So if somebody like really looks at me and picks it apart, like I do surgeries for free, I take TRICARE, Medicaid, like I do all the things. I'm the safety net for women around the country. I'm like, I wasn't worried. I just thought, oh, look, we're getting a voice. And then as I'm coming into the hospital, there are people like patting me on the back like doctors saying like, thank you so much for saying what I couldn't say. So I felt really good until I got a letter from United. And that was like, whoa, okay.
You did reveal this stuff that doctors have been doing for decades now that we've never shown, that we have never told anybody is what we do. And I'm starting to see more and more physicians do this. There are physicians that, read prior auths theatrically. There's other, I've seen some medical practices that just record themselves on hold with the insurance company, and then they'll record like a 45-minute video and speed it up and just like, to show that it took 45 minutes of this person's time to get approved for some stupid thing like Zofran or Moxis, like something that is not worth anyone's time for a generic drug that costs pennies. So I think we are starting to see more physicians like yourself, like pull back the veil, pull back, show behind the curtain of what it's taking on the doctor's side or the doctor's staff side to operate in this broken system.
I'm glad that we're doing that, and I'm here for it, and I support it. And I think you can do it with, a sense of decorum.
It would seem like a tremendous opportunity for United to say, hey, wow, we could really learn from this experience. And wow, this physician is someone that we work with, that we contract with, that we pay. Me in my naive way clearly is thinking, gosh, what an opportunity to help provide better service to the doctors who are delivering care for the patients that we cover, that we insure.
As a business owner, if I had someone bring to me a concern about a service that I was delivering, I would really analyze that. And I do. Like, okay, where was the breakdown? And how can I make that better? Why does this person feel this way? And, I think for me, I perform, I think when I did a back of the napkin calculation, about 1% of the mastectomies for United yearly. That's a lot.
What?
I did 500 breast cancer surgeries last year.
Wow.
I do a ton of surgeries. So like, I just think, they have no concept of what I have offered to their members. Now their members have a really high concept of what that is. I mean, my patients are like, they're so appreciative, but they just don't get it. And, they chose one path, and I think, it played out the way it did.
In the same way that, I think patients often feel like a number, and that I think you try to make your patients not feel that way. I think United probably thinks of you as a number as well. You're just another line on a spreadsheet of plastic surgeons who do mastectomies for them.
Of course. And I'm just, I'm over that.
Yeah.
I'm over it.
Yeah.
I'm really valuable. And every surgeon and every doctor is really valuable. It comes down to what is the product that they're selling, right? They're selling a product to their members, and they're saying, here's insurance, and it's great, right? And the truth is that that's just words. It's just words. It's all about the network that they have. It's about the physicians, and it's about the access that they can deliver to care. And when I see in a major metropolitan area that an insurance company will sell a product, someone will be insured, employed with, and be diagnosed with breast cancer here in Austin, and then not be able to find, number one, a radiology facility that's in network to cover their mammogram. Number two, a breast surgeon who's in network to perform their surgery. And number three, a plastic surgeon that's in network to perform their reconstruction. I'm like, I think you guys are selling goods that are flawed. There's something amiss, and the curtain needs to be pulled back.
Next, you'll hear from Dr. Jim Dolly, who's an emergency physician from Utah. And while he's known as the White Coat Investor, he originally created that title for you, the physician audience. Jim has written several books and has an incredible understanding of the challenges faced by physicians, from student loans to income and salary, investing and spending your money wisely as a doctor. His practical tips about how to level up your finances and avoid bad actors who are trying to rip you off were helpful to me personally, and I think you'll find them useful as well. Now, here's Jim. Broadly speaking, why do you think physicians have such a hard time with money management, especially in those early years, say, right after fellowship or as a new attending for that first 5 years?
Well, the main problem is doctors are people.
If we just got rid of that, we'd be so much better. Yeah.
That's exactly it. I mean, we make the same mistakes everybody else makes. We just tend to do it with larger sums of money. We borrow more, and then we earn more, and we pay more in taxes, and we have to save more for retirement. So when we make a mistake, it's a bigger mistake usually. Doctors are in a unique place in that they start their career late, and particularly for emergency doctors, we have this step where we go from a resident income to an attending income. That might be the highest income we ever see, that first income we get coming out of residency, just because we're willing to work more shifts and we're willing to work more night shifts and that sort of a thing. And then the income trends down throughout our careers. Well, that's not the way most careers look like. If you get outside of medicine, most careers, you start earning something in your 20s, and you don't start with a mountain of debt hanging over your head. And, you progressively make more and become more financially literate as you go. Whereas doctors just get thrown right into the fire right from the beginning. We've got big practice loans and student loans. We don't have anything saved for retirement. And we have all these great uses for money and not enough money to do them all, whether that's, maxing out a Roth IRA or upgrading that beater we've been driving since we were a med student, or saving up an emergency fund. And, we have all these good things to do with money right when we come out, and it's really hard to prioritize them.
Will I be making less money because of inflation and I'm not seeing as many raises, or I'm just not working as many hours usually?
It's usually because you're not working as many hours. Now, This is fairly specific to the shift-based specialties, A lot of other specialties are building a practice and their income actually, goes up with time. And yes, there's probably inflation raises if you're an employed emergency physician. But most of us are not interested in working as much at 55 as we were at 35.
What?
And we're not as willing to work the undesirable shifts and take as much call. And the truth is, lots of us don't make more money, 20 years into our careers than we were making toward the beginning. And you need to manage your finances that way. You can't just say, I'm going to spend it now and I'll save later. Well, later you might have even less income. And I tell you what, it's pretty hard to cut back your lifestyle. Not that hard to increase it at all, but it's hard to cut it back.
I certainly remember hitting, 35 or 40 and just being like, I could not do 5 nights in a row. Shout out to our nocturnists that do that because it's challenging. Jim, you said that we physicians tend to make the same mistakes, maybe just with larger sums of money. How do you think physicians get taken advantage of? And what do you think are the biggest offenders?
The financial services industry is actually out there hunting you. It's Captain Ahab and you are the whale.
You are the whale. Yeah.
They are coming after you. They actually use this term in the industry, whales, right? We want these high net worth people that we can churn their accounts and generate all these commissions from them. There are actually people out there who, it's not that they don't want you to succeed. They just want to make money off of you. And they're not always, looking out for your best interests. Sometimes they're pretty ignorant, actually. They hold themselves out as a financial advisor, and mostly they're just selling products to you. Sometimes it's a firm that wants to make you scared about getting sued and losing everything, right? And so they sell you these super expensive and complex asset protection plans that involve overseas trusts and family limited LLCs in Wyoming or Alaska or New Hampshire or whatever. And they just take advantage of your fears. And you end up with these weird things in your financial life. Like I was talking with a doc who's on the cusp of retirement, who has 40% of his nest egg in whole life insurance policies because there was no one around to warn him. He actually has a substantial chunk of his nest egg in something that probably should have had 3 times higher returns over the years.
Wow. What mistakes do you see new doctors make when they're trying to manage their student loans?
It would help if this didn't change every month, right? For many years, I told people, hey, don't borrow more than you have to. And if you have, money going into med school, maybe you ought to use some of that money to pay for med school and invest in yourself. Well, now something like 50% of doctors are in public service loan forgiveness qualifying jobs. The right financial answer, the right mathematical answer for that 50% is not to spend your own money. It's to spend the taxpayer's money and have the taxpayer pay for your med school. And so I actually answer that question differently now. than I did 10 years ago. The mistakes people make, they borrow too much. They, spend money they maybe shouldn't be spending. They don't pay attention to it and get a plan in place. They don't figure out early enough if they're going to be going for a job that qualifies for public service loan forgiveness, or if they're going to be, taking a regular job that hopefully pays more, and refinancing their loans and paying them off. Maybe they don't enroll into the right income-driven repayment program. So we actually have a company, studentloanadvice.com, to answer student loan questions, because it's just the management of them has gotten so complicated over the last 5 years. I mean, there's some truisms, right? If you can borrow federal loans instead of private loans, you should do that, right? That's still true. If you can get somebody else to pay back your student loans instead of you, you probably ought to let them do it. That's going to be a truism. Pretty much every doc coming out of med school needs to be enrolling in an income-driven repayment program and not going into deferment or forbearance. That is almost always a mistake. And if you're paying your student loans back yourself, you're sure you're not going for a forgiveness program, you can go ahead and refinance your student loans and have more of your payments going toward principal instead of interest. All those things are still true.
Yeah. And Jim, just for our medical student listeners, deferment or forbearance would be you finish medical school, you start residency, but you have decided to not start paying back your loans because you're a resident and you're not making much income. And you're saying that you should not do that generally.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. Terrible idea. I mean, you can basically do that anyway. All you do is you file a tax return your last year that says you have zero income. Now your income-driven repayment program, whichever one it is that's still available, your income's zero, your payments are zero, and those $0 payments count toward public service loan forgiveness. These people that go into deferment, they come out of residency 5 years later, they're halfway done to public service loan forgiveness, and they have no payments because they went into deferment. I mean, it's a tragedy. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to doctors to make this mistake.
Do you get a sense that the medical schools are giving this relatively accurate general idea of how they should be managing their student loans when they become a resident?
The answer is almost universally no. It's not to say that's the case for all med schools, right? There are a couple that have a financial planner on staff. There are a few that have an optional finance course that you take as an MS4, which I think is a great time to become financially literate. This is my mission in life, is to make sure no student comes out of this school while being a financial idiot. For the most part, people aren't getting this. Or worse, they're getting misinformation. They're getting some, whole life insurance salesman coming in, masquerading as a financial advisor. And
offering free lunch or dinner or something.
Telling them something. And then at the end, it's like, and come see me so I can sell you some whole life insurance or whatever. That's far more common.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with a brand new guest who I'm excited for you to meet. And also, I would love to hear from you. As this community and podcast has grown, we have so many new physician listeners who are doing great work to improve healthcare and restore physician autonomy. Who would you like to see me interview next? I'd love to hear from you. Get in touch, email me at graham@offcall.com, or drop your suggestions in the comments on social media. This has been and continues to be Dr. Graham Walker. Stay well, stay inspired, and practice with purpose.